Okay, St. Mark's. This is the answers to 3 and 4, I hope. 3 is what can Episcopalians do, or what are ways they can evangelize that are consistent with our tradition and our identity? Well, I think it goes back to our first question, and that is to be authentic. I think people that are suspicious of religion and of church right now really don't have that much trouble with Jesus, but they have a lot of problems with the church. And part of that is because we've not been authentically human. And I think that that's one thing that people are really looking for. So we evangelize in the way that we are not afraid to talk about God in our life and the church in our life, but at the same time acknowledging that we're human beings, that the church is human, and that we're not perfect. So much of what Christianity gets displayed as, and whether it's the elections or whatever, is this idea of perfection, and we've got to get beyond that. We have a faith that is very imperfect, and yet God is with us in all of that. And the more we can show that, and the more we can believe that, and be present in people's lives that way, then I think we can truly be evangelistic. I don't think we evangelize by asking people to come inside our church. We evangelize by going out, and we evangelize by sitting in the coffee shop, sitting in the bar, sitting in wherever it is we are out in the world, and being willing to share our faith, and to be willing to share the belief that we have in something beyond ourselves, in a way that's not shameful or judgmental, but is just joyful about what it means in our life. I think that's how we can be authentically evangelistic, and we need to do more of it. Instead, we can compartmentalize this, and it's very easy to do in the Northwest, where it's not exactly popular to be part of a religion or to be a faithful person. But I think we could perfect that even in a greater way living in this environment. Christianity tends to be at its best when it's a minority. And we are going to get that opportunity here again. We're already there. We have to actually be who we say we are. And we have to reveal that in the world. Just getting back from the Holy Land, that's one of the major things you see there. Christians there don't identify as denominations anymore. They say the numbers are too small. We're too much of a small. We're just Christians. And to some degree, we've got to get back to that too. But the Episcopal way of doing that really is unique. And I think it's a great question. And I hope you'll grapple with too how we do that. But part of it is being authentically human and yet a believer. And that's the way we can do that, I believe. The last question was, what do I like to be called in the diocese? Well, my name works really well. I've always answered to Greg, and I'm fine with that. I realize as a rector that some parents had a real hard time with that because, having your child call the pastor or teacher by the first name is not always the best thing. So, in Anglican tradition, it's actually quite appropriate to call a priest Mr. So I answer to that. People call me simply Bishop, and that's fine too. It took me about 2 years. People would walk in the room and say, "Hey, Bishop," and I would look around looking for the bishop. But I've gotten past that now. So that's fine too. But really, I don't have this idea of what people ought to call me. You'll hear people call me Your Grace, which is really not an Episcopal thing, but most people are doing it kind of with tongue-in-cheek. I often tell them I prefer Your Magnificence, but actually I don't prefer any of that. Greg is fine. Bishop Rickle, Bishop Greg, Bishop. As long as it's not derogatory, I'll smile at you and try to acknowledge you. And so I'm not big on that, really. Our staff has learned that in meetings they need to call me Bishop or Bishop Rickle because others are offended by the lack of piety. But really, I just want to be in conversation with you, and Greg works just fine. I hope that's answered it. I've enjoyed doing this. Have a good class. Take care.